Hey friends. I um I had a thought come to me yesterday. I was just reflecting on the work I've been doing with my daughter. I should call it play I've been doing with my daughter. The play we've been doing on violin and in music in general. I might have mentioned in my post yesterday, we had such a gorgeous day on Saturday and another really nice day yesterday. But on Saturday, we spent a bunch of time making music and just playing games. And I was able to find my way to a playfulness that I think is good for me, and it's necessary for her. It's like she leads me into the space that ideally I would just kind of always inhabit with her and in my own music, but that I have a teacher to get me there. But then yesterday I was kind of reflecting on that, and this thought came through. I was reminded of how my teacher, Madeline, refers to making music and the practice of music as a spiritual practice, which is exactly how I refer to it in my own teaching and in my own study. But there was a layer that showed up for me that was specifically about the practice process and how we approach the practice process. And I was looking at what it means that I do this with my daughter every day. And it takes some awareness to really see, to really just be conscious of what's coming through me. Where's my impulse coming from? Right? My impulse to lead her into music, to help her discover music and be the consistent presence, the consistent structure around that process for her. Where am I coming from as I do that? Am I coming from my own desire to see my own interests reflected in my child, right? Because that's not so good. That doesn't work out so well. Am I, letting her discover what she is looking for in it? How much can I really be there? How can I create structure and boundaries around the process so that the process actually happens? Because God knows with a 4-year-old, that process could just as easily not happen. How do you keep a boundary around it, but also let her be self-directed within that and let her make discoveries? She wrote a song the other day. This is her first song ever. She not only she just started playing this riff. She was practicing something, and then all of a sudden she just played this little riff. And I said, "Honey, what was that?" She said, "Oh, I'm just making it up. This is my song." I went, "Whoa, okay." So that was to me a real affirmation of like, okay, she's there. She's discovering. She's able to exercise her own creativity within this. And use the skills that she's developing to be able to create something of her own that she was then really proud of, so much so that she wrote it down on a piece of paper. And what came through yesterday, this is a lot of preamble to my thought, but what came through yesterday was, music is a spiritual practice. Playing an instrument is a kind of spiritual practice. And the greatest instrumentalists approach music with a total devotion. There's a sense of enormous devotion and dedication to the instrument, to the history of the instrument, to the ongoing evolution of the instrument. There's this kind of, it's a passion. It's a real spiritual passion. And when I hit on that, when I recognized that, or when that wasn't a new thought, but when that surfaced as the substrate of what I'm doing every day with my daughter, what we're doing together, I suddenly just felt so empowered by that. I suddenly felt like that puts a frame around what we're doing in a really beautiful way. Because a young person, a young mind, really learning to work with vibration, work with frequencies, connect, written out symbols to sounds, to finger positions, to a kind of overall sense of structure. There's just so much going on. And the fact that it's a kind of devotion, the fact that it's a practice that is both a form of self-care, deep self-care, and a form of commitment to something beyond ourselves and putting our attention on something beyond ourselves. To put our attention on music is to put our attention on something that's not our ego. It's to put our focus, to locate our focus, and then locate ultimately our sense of identity. Temporarily, not necessarily all the time, but it's to put the sense of what I am and what's coming through me outside the ego. And I think that's why it's a spiritual practice. We can't make music from the ego. We can, but it's not great music, and it usually doesn't move people. When you hear someone playing from ego, it doesn't matter how good they are. You feel, you either just don't feel anything, or you feel that this is not about. It's almost like I've had this experience of sitting in performances or watching performances on TV or recorded or whatever, and being like, this is the kind of performance that would really move me if it moved me. If you ever catch yourself thinking that thought, it's likely that the performer is kind of hung up on something. Because whether it's virtuosic or the most simple kind of folk song, 3-chord thing, when it's coming from that place of beyond ourselves, beyond our ego, it's a religious experience. And just recognizing that is what I'm sharing every day with my daughter was a really beautiful thing to see. It really gave me a sense of empowerment and a sense of joy. And a sense of support. Because sometimes practice session really, some days we get a lot done, some days we don't get so much done. It's really good to remember that it's not about how many notes did we learn today, how many pieces did we learn today, how much, it's not about that. I tell this to all my students, and then I have to turn around and tell it to me when I'm working with my daughter. but remaining in that place of devotion, music as devotion, it just makes the process infinitely beautiful, infinitely interesting. So, yeah, that's where I am today, folks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. It's great to have you on this journey with me. Have a good day. I'll see you soon.